It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected. Devlin.
You've gotta love sport.
The platform.
Always a pleasure when the legend Murray Mexted joins us. 2:30 platform. Mex, what are we meant to make of that All Blacks performance, mate?
Well, I mean, it was entertaining, wasn't it?
Well, yes.
I sat with a group of very learned rugby people, and it was incredibly entertaining. It was a game of two halves, as they say, and we were lucky to get out of it. But, you know, sometimes when the tide turns, it's hard to stop it. And, you know, on the rugby field particularly, and that's what we saw. But it's a bit different, isn't it, playing Australia in Sydney to South Africa in Cape Town or Johannesburg. It's a totally different concept. And I think the way rugby is today, with the attrition rate of players during the season and for a season, you know, with the injury rate, I think it's really, really important to pick your team for the match you're playing. And there's a real difference between playing these two countries in consecutive weeks. So sometimes it requires different selection. So my view of what's going on at the moment in the All Black team is there's no question, and I hear a lot of stuff on the radio and the TV, but there's no question that Razor Robertson is a proven coach. And people are forgetting that. He's a proven coach for many years now, and his success story down south when he couldn't get a gig initially, you know, is proven without any doubt. So I reckon one of the problems we've got is selection. And I think that's probably why we haven't got McDonald in the selection panel anymore, because, you know, that old expression, too many cooks spoil the broth. Well, I think that's the case in this situation where there's too many people having a bit of a crack at what they think they should do. And the other thing is, I might be saying this because I'm getting on, Martin, and so are you actually.
Uh-huh.
But you don't get worse as a selector; you get better. You become, you know, more rounded, and you have a fuller perspective, and you're not affected emotionally when you select when you get into your senior years. And I think that it was probably the key to Graham Henry's success with Steve Hansen. But one of the things that guard suggested and tried to implement was an attrition. The attrition rate is obviously the same with coaches as it is with players. And there needs to be some sort of continuity. And I think what we've got at the moment is we've got a whole new guard, you know, and there's no continuity. And most of them now haven't been exposed to international rugby at this level. And there's a big difference between selecting players at Super Rugby level and internationals against South Africa and Australia and Sydney for that matter. So I think that's something we've got to bear in mind. These guys are still learning the trade.
Yeah, but Mexico, you know, I got to stop you there, mate, because as an All Blacks fan, I don't want my coaches and selectors to be learning the trade. The 8 tests into a season. You know, this isn't the White Ferns or the Warriors or the football Ferns here. This is the All Blacks. We have a standard of excellence to maintain here. You don't get given 8 games to find your feet under the desk, do you? And I think 8 is enough. From here, I really do. I want to see some consistency in this team. I want to see a team that doesn't collapse in the last 20 minutes like it has 6 out of 8 tests. I want to see a first 5 that's able to control a test match and close it out for us instead of skittery, jittery, helter-skelter rugby. I mean, those are just fair demands, aren't they?
Here, Martin Devlin. Here. Delightful stuff. Please, this is why I do these things with you, because you've got a perspective from a man who wants standards on the field, wants standards of performance. And I agree entirely with everything you've just said. sometimes it's not as easy to have that, though.
I do understand that. Yeah, I understand that bit. But I'm never going to lower my expectations for this team, Max. I'm never going to be happy thinking that, the All Blacks can lose 3 test matches a year. That kind of stuff. I'm from a different generation, and I refuse to buckle and bow to that. This is the new team. No, it's not the new team. This team has always been the team. Not old, not new, but the team.
Yeah, and it's the same attitude, actually, of former players, to be frank. And sometimes I think when a new player gets selected, he doesn't quite understand the history and the tradition and the mental strength and fortitude that you need, especially in the last 20 minutes. That's when you've got to dig deep. That's when you've got to dig deep, and you're representing more than just yourself. You're representing a whole legacy, a historic level of performance, we'll call it. Yeah. So anyway, these guys are learning their trade. We're stuck with that. This is a decision that New Zealand Rugby made. I mean, they made this decision. They created this situation, and nobody's held them to account, actually. But it was naive. I mean, we've spoken before about naming, the replacement for
Ian Foster
last year for Ian Foster before the Rugby World Cup. I mean, how naive do you have to be to do that? Terrible. So anyway, we're paying the price, and these guys, I think, are capable of doing a very good job. But it doesn't mean to say that they're world-class selectors at the moment. And I think they're making mistakes in selection, and that's where they've got to think pretty hard and long about what they're doing, and that's probably why McDonald left.
Also on that, we look at how much rugby these guys are actually playing, and I don't think it's a fitness issue at the end of games. But at the same time, you bring Tossie on. Tossie hasn't played really since Super Rugby. He played against Fiji. You've got the guy Noah Hotham in the squad. Played against Fiji, hasn't played since. You can't tell me that you get better at playing rugby or better prepared at playing rugby when you don't play rugby. My brain just doesn't commute that.
To a degree, you're correct. I think one of the most important things about performance at the highest level is actually to be able to perform at the highest level. And that's a mental game.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.